Hello guys, welcome back to another episode here on European Confessions. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you a message that I received from one person who wants to remain anonymous. They told me that I'm going to tell you a story whereby I got chased by a vampire whilst I was still a young boy. He said that originally he comes from Malawi, but as for now, he is staying in Europe, and he said that when he grew up in those days, if you were said that you are a vampire, and if people suspected that you were a vampire, there were high chances that people will burn you alive, because that was the only way that they believed that you will truly die. Growing up, my mother was a devoted Roman Catholic going Christian, and she didn't believe in these stories. So in our home, this thing of believing that there are vampires in Malawi, it was a forbidden thing. Even me myself, when my friends told me that in the forest where we used to go and hunt there were vampires, I used to laugh them all and say that there is nothing like vampires under the sun. God did not create such a creature. But my friend always told me that his father was once chased by this creature, which was a blood-sucking creature, and it left a mark on his neck. But I never believed any of those things until one day I got chased by a creature that I truly don't understand what kind of a creature it was. As usual, I had gone out to play, and I loved to go out hunting with my two dogs. As of now, I am a man who is aged 55. Ever since I came here to Europe, I have not yet returned to Africa, because I came here with a refugee status and I lost communication with all my family members, that now I don't have any idea if any of my father's and my mother's children are still alive or they all perished. So what happened, when I was still a young boy, I had gone out to hunt with my two dogs as usual. I walked for a while and I was feeling a little bit of tiredness that day, and as I sat beside the road and I was just resting, my dogs were just running around the bush. Then I saw my dogs running so fast as if they'd seen something in the forest, and they began to chase that thing. As for me, I just looked for an opening in the forest and I sat down as I waited for my dogs to come back to me. I kept on whistling to them, knowing that when they hear my whistle, they know where I was. But it took something about 30 minutes. Then I saw my dogs running back to me, but there was something different about them. It was as if they had seen a very scary creature or a lion, because they were running towards me with their tails behind their legs. It seemed as if my dogs had seen something so scary, because they came, then they sat close to me as if I was the one who was supposed to protect them. All the while they were just whimpering. Then there was a rustle in the bush. My dogs stood up. Then they looked at the direction from which the sound was coming from. Then my dogs ran. They ran like I have never seen them running before, but they were running not towards the bush, but towards the village from where we were coming from. So I tried to call them back by whistling and calling out their names. I was so angry at them. These dogs, according to me, they were just cowards. So I kept calling on for them to come back, but they would run, then look back at me, then they would bark as if they were trying to warn me of something. When I turned around to face the direction from which the sound was coming from, it was already too late, because there it was, that creature that was making the sound in the bushes. It was now in the open. It was a tall creature that I have never seen before. It seemed as if it was a man, but it had breast as if it was a woman. The head was so strange. The only thing that I noticed on this creature is that it had very large teeth that were coming out of its mouth. If someone tells me to make a comparison of what this creature's teeth looked like, I would say that the teeth were as long as a lion's teeth, because this creature would open its mouth as it was looking at me. I just stood there. I was frozen. That creature walked slowly towards me. I was so powerless. I didn't have any power. I started to shiver. Then as the creature approached me, I just saw an arrow. The arrow was like a burning arrow. It hit straight. The arrow was like a burning arrow. It hit that creature straight on the forehead. Then that creature exploded into flames. As for me, I just blacked out and I collapsed. When I woke up, to me, I thought maybe it was just a couple of hours that had passed on. Little did I know that for the whole week I had been in bed. I woke up and my mother was standing guard over my body. Then there was a Roman Catholic priest saying his prayers. They actually thought I was about to die, so they were giving me these prayers. The priest was praying to God so that God can forgive me on his behalf. When I woke up, they were so shocked. There was another man who quickly rushed into the room and opened my mouth and pulled out my tongue. I screamed out in pain because it was so painful, and then they looked at the front row of my teeth to see if I was not already changing into a vampire. They had me tied down to the bed for several weeks, and they will come back each and every morning, open my mouth, pull out my tongue, and look at my front row teeth to see if I had not yet transformed into an anama pauper, meaning a blood-sucking vampire. When they were sure, then they released me. Later on, the villagers then gathered around our house. Some of them, they were demanding that I should be burned alive and even burn the whole family, because they suspected that something had happened to me in the forest. They wanted to know what kind of a creature had I seen in the forest and how did I survive from that attack. When I was still in bed, I still remember that the Roman Catholic priest had come to me and whispered in my ears and told me that when you get stronger, my son, I want you to know that don't tell even your mother what you have seen in the forest, because if you tell anyone, the possibilities of you being burned alive are quite high. So I think my survival instinct then kicked in. I did not even tell anyone what I had seen in the forest. The villagers got very angry. Then they were saying that this boy is surely going to turn into a bloodsucker. Why doesn't he want to tell us what happened in the forest? Then the priest had to rescue me. Then they put me in this Roman Catholic mission which was close to our village. From there on, fake papers were made for me, and I used those papers to come here to Europe. When I arrived here in Europe, then I was told that I had to claim for a refugee status. Then I stayed here in Europe. I have never returned to Africa again. When I arrived here, later on, I dated this white woman. Then this other day, I told her what had happened to me when I was still a young boy. That's when she told me about all of these things whereby there are these creatures which are called vampires. But each and every time when I will tell her that this is exactly the creature that I saw back home in Malawi, she would laugh at me and say, no, it is just a movie. Those things are not for real. But as for me, I know what I saw. Even if people say that they don't believe my story, it is okay. I know what I saw, and I think that back home in Malawi, there are people who can agree with me that those things surely exist. Please notify me if you ever post my story. That was a story right there from one of our listeners. So right now I am asking that if we have any of our listeners who are from Malawi, please can you gather here and tell us, what does this Anama Popper mean? Is it for real or is it just a legend? Dear listeners, that was the story that we had for today. Let's meet again in the following episode.